Okay, I'm plugged in now.
Right. Okay, folks, is this all we're going to get tonight? I think we should start.
People.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Mike, I like your
You
hiccup.
don't have, yeah. Right, folks. Tell me that you get the feedback on your assignments that I marked.
Got the marks, not the feedback.
Yeah.
Well, you should have the Word documents. You two submitted it in a different format, and I couldn't edit it. I couldn't make any remarks. I could probably have used sticky notes, but because it wasn't in Word, I just gave you marks, but I didn't give you any comments.
Was that for everybody?
That was Laverne and Cor.
That's strange.
Yeah. Okay. In what format did you give me your assignments?
I think it's in Word. I'm actually just checking now. Week 1.
Mine was PDF.
Ah, shucks. Oh, okay.
PDF.
Sorry, I think I might have sent it as a PDF. Yeah.
Yeah, both of yours was PDF. But I'll give you comments if you resend it in Word.
Thanks.
You can dial it direct, or you can email it directly, or reload it on the system. I'll have a look.
Thank you.
But everybody should have received their marks, and those of you who did submit it in Word, I'm not too sure how, but you should be able to access my edited copies on the system, in which I made remarks, and you could have a look at that. So I'll talk about this again on Saturday morning, but just provisionally to give you feedback. Everybody's efforts ranged from some, I must say, extremely poor and some extremely good. We need to talk a little bit about the formatting, a proper a title page with your name and stuff like that. Some were just totally anonymous. I had to go back to see whose it was. And here and there were some good signs in terms of referencing, but some referencing was very poor. But, this is the first one. I'll just talk through it very quickly on Saturday morning and just give you some pointers. I assume that there were some guidelines somewhere on the system in terms of the editorial. But if there was, then I didn't see it in your assignments. So you just need to be a little more meticulous in terms of the formatting. Okay, that's as far as the assignments were concerned. There were some very good ideas, some very valid points made, and yeah, as you probably discovered, it's not a difficult case. But as I said, start with a good practice swing. For me to have given you a big corporate case study, I think would have defeated the purpose. I just wanted you to zoom in on, if you'll excuse the pun, zoom in on the basics that we discussed. So as we go forward, and hopefully you have started on the second assignment, at least considered or looked at it, I think things will become a little clearer. Also, I think all of you need to capitalize on what you've done in the first assignment and see what kind of continuity you can work in the system. Because I don't want 5 totally dissociated pieces given to me. You need to work the case, and even in the second and third or the subsequent parts of the assignment, if you get a new revelation that maybe discounts what you found in the first endeavor, just take note of it and mention it. So let's deal with it as a one singular interdependent unit that progresses from where we started to where we're going to end. Yeah, that's all from my side. Anything from your side? Questions, comments? Anything you need to know or discuss now? Nothing? Johan, you're muted.
All right, let's try again. Sorry, I see now. Evening. Yeah, just from my side, it was, I think the last 2 weeks quite tough. Coming from the engineering point of view, first time I'm really talking into the marketing, let's call it lingo. So what's interesting, trying to do some different reading as well, trying to get some more info on marketing. What's interesting for me is different views of everyone. So it's not for me, definitely not the easiest subject I'm doing at this point in time. So quite a bit of a challenge. Also looking at a model, yes, we do get some information on model and business models, but more business plans. So for me, it was quite an interesting situation to distinguish between the two. So yeah, a lot of extra read I need to do to understand what's going on. I don't know if the other people are experiencing the same, but challenging one for me. Yeah.
Okay, I think we briefly discussed the difference between these two levels, and I think, who was it? McGee, who made a comment on what should be first. And just to reiterate that again, the business model is, I think, a little more enduring, although it's not cast in stone. Otherwise, we would not look at it in ways that will enable us to innovate all along. The strategy is a shorter term construct, and when you get down to plans, that's really short term executions of the strategic intent that must almost give body to the business model. So that's the way I approach it. There may be different and other different approaches, but I think that's when you get to the plans level. They're supposed to be a little more variable because they're short term, but often in really bad organizations, they get to be carried over from year to year to year, and it just, the organization just resembles itself over time because there's just a slight tweaking of the plans, and in most instances, just to justify the new budget. But so that's the order: business model, strategy, operational plans. Right? Anybody else?
Yeah, Gustav, I can't find your comments. I've taken a look at my submission. Where would you put it?
Okay,
Mine
what
wasn't-
I did was yours was in Word. Okay, so Singi showed me how to do it. So I put in the comments and saved the reviewed version on my computer. Then I downloaded it in a way that that he showed me. So the downloaded version should be. Say again.
To an email or to where?
No, in the system. If you click on, and obviously I've got all of you in my view. I'm not too sure whether you've got all. I don't think you've got each other's view. Okay. So I think where it says individual assignment in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, there should be a
feedback,
a Word document that I've gone through. Do you see it?
I'm looking.
You will get it under feedback. So you'll see your mark, your grade, and there should be feedback. That is, it's a document that's sent back to you. If you look into this,
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, Shingi, I can see feedback files there. I can see Michael feedback and dot.
Exactly.
But I'm clicking on it and it says loaded, and then wait a second.
It should allow you to download.
Open. Yeah, I've got it.
Yes. So you get a Word document.
Yeah, I've got it.
Is it a document with comments?
Yes. So what you did was you downloaded your articles, your assignments.
Yeah.
Then you read through them, put track changes on them, and resubmitted feedback back to you. So you will get a Word document with all your feedback in that particular Word document.
Whereabouts do I find that on the Monash site? So I'm looking at the Welcome to Week 1.
No, you're going into
if you go into Week 1 individual application,
yes,
and you'll see where your submission is, and below that says feedback, and under there says feedback files, and you click on that, and there you'll find your document in Word, and you open it up and you'll find Gustav comments. Did you? Again. So I'm on the front page of Week 1.
Okay.
Then I went to individual assignment.
Yeah.
And on the front, in individual assignment, you got obviously the whole story about. Then you further down, you got it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Shinga, I'm doing your job for you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Please don't worry. I think my hair had a hand up, Prof.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Gustav, I just wanted to ask about a comment that you had made on my assignment. What I said there was that the fact that the owner of Hangers found out that there was a certain customer group that preferred the home delivery as opposed to coming into the store and then getting services that way. I had said that that was a new market segment, and then the comment that you had made there was that this was an innovative, that I should think about whether it's a segment or whether it's an innovative new service. I just wanted to discuss that quickly because I saw that as a form of segmentation in terms of how well he knew his customers. When I saw in the textbooks, when they were talking about market segmentation, they were talking about more.
Okay, you're disappearing a bit.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello?
No,
Can you hear me?
you're very faint.
Is it very faint? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, I hope that you can hear me.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Right, here's my answer. The term segmentation normally refers to an identified group with some commonalities, either biographical, demographical, or psychographic, or whatever. Now, as I see this situation, and just as an aside remark here, all of you would see that in some instances, instead of making conclusive remarks, I'm asking questions. And it's something that you need to just think about. So I think this business is too early to define those that they have recruited and gotten on board to use the delivery system rather than going into bricks and mortar. I don't think it's established as a definable segment yet. There's no indication of that. So in terms of attributes and so on, it may be quite an eclectic mix. So this is really to me a group who has been offered different options, and they have opted for a particular method of service delivery. But I wouldn't regard them as a segment at this stage, because you can't really go to somebody else and identify someone else that would be in that segment unless you ask them in what kind of service delivery they're interested. You get the point here.
Gustav, I see you haven't.
You've disappeared. Russell?
Sorry, yeah. You asked the three most important questions.
Okay, you're very faint.
Sorry, let me try again. You asked for the three most important questions. What would they be?
Okay, I still can't hear you.
Can't you hear me?
I can hear
Is
you,
it
but it's
better
very
now?
faint.
Can we try some?
Okay?
Maybe try typing it, Russell, because
How's
I can
that?
hear you fine.
Yeah.
Gustav, what
okay.
Russell was asking for, what are the three most important questions?
Yeah, you're coming and going. Then you totally audible and then you faint. I'm not too sure whether it's on my side.
I can hear Russell fine. Can you hear me, Gustav?
Very faintly, just as Russell.
Sure.
Just
I can hear you perfect. I can hear Russell perfect, but you can't hear us.
well, I can hear you, but it's very faint. Just
Okay.
check my
Can I
sound here, just a
try
moment.
again? It's better. Gustav, is this better?
No, I'm afraid I can't hear you clearly.
All right.
Gustav,
Okay, there you are.
can you maybe hear me?
There you are. Yes, I can hear
Can you
everybody
hear
now.
me?
Yes,
Okay, you can hear us.
yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, Russ, go for it.
All right. I was going to ask, what are the three most important questions?
There aren't only three most important questions. Obviously, that's a bit differential and personal. So, I didn't have a list of three most important questions that you should have answered, and then I made it a correct mark or not. No, there's quite a variety of questions that were asked by people, and there was somebody, I think, I can't remember who it was, even asked 10 questions. There's, Russell, there is no particular right answer, but we can look at some of those in quickly Saturday morning.
Okay, good.
That's both the beauty and the frustration of these kinds of applied sciences like marketing, particularly. There's an old saying that says, "Tot carpies, quod sententiae." So many heads, so many opinions, and yeah, it's not an exact science, but obviously there are some very relevant questions that needed to be asked about the business model and taking their services to market, and each one of those questions has its merits. Obviously, there may be a bit of structural logic involved. That is, you need to answer some questions first before you can get to other questions or answers. And so, no, I don't have one set of three correct answers.
Okay. I was intrigued by that because I thought that would be three basic questions to ask. And they would be the most fundamental questions to ask for any business, particularly in this situation. So whereas I know there's lots of questions to ask, if you break it down, I think there would only be very basic questions.
Yeah. So, just to give you an example, some people zoomed in on the chemical story, and then started asking questions about the importance of a green approach. And in some of those instances, I just asked the question, are you convinced at this stage that customers are really interested in and would be swayed by the fact that a certain permutation of chemicals is used or not? I don't know that at this stage. If it was a differentiator, then obviously they should consider to go big with it and say, we use safe chemicals that is earth friendly and green and so on. But that's obviously one particular option that could be used. You've got to make a trade-off between that and convenience. So you've got a green on the one side, and you've got convenience, that is, collecting and delivering. Is that what you push forward? Remember when I spoke last week, I said that advertising and promotion is really a question of pushing things forward and turning people towards the thing you push forward. So in this case, there are obviously different things that you can push forward. And clearly at this stage of the involvement of the company, the convenience of collecting and delivering is one thing that they really started pushing forward. But they didn't. They talked about the use and the choice of chemicals at the start of the business, but it was not really positioned as a conceivable benefit as such.
Gustav, would you not argue that the first question to ask is, what does the market want? Because at this point in time, when Joe opened his company, I assume he looked at the marketplace and he did a bit of a market survey. But things have changed, and you would have to ask yourself again, what does the market want? So that, in my mind, would be the very first question to ask. Undisputed.
Yeah, and there were a couple of people who stated some things as if they were benefits to be taken to market. And I said, obviously, and those of you who did that, and I made this comment, would know who you are. I said, this is conceivably a potential benefit, but we don't know it unless it's been tested in the market. And so, for instance, a whole lot of you talked about added value benefits. Dry cleaning, repairing shoes, and so on could augment the business. And my question in that instance was, obviously, before you do something like that, which would make you much more like Procter & Gamble, but before you do it, you need to find out whether that's a conceivable benefit, whether people want it. Because as soon as you do that, then you require them again to come into the shop and bring their shoes and have their trousers measured and so on. So the two things, the mortar and bricks and the delivery system, would fly into each other's faces, so to speak. So before you can state that as a possible benefit, you've got to do research and find out whether they want it or not. So that's just an example, Russell, and you're absolutely right.
And then I just had interest. Like the second question I would ask at the logic would have been, what does Joe want? Because his needs may
Hang on.
Sorry.
I didn't touch anything on my side, and now your voice is gone again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Now it comes and goes. It's one syllable I can hear, and then your voice is gone again.
Okay. Then I think I'll keep quiet.
Okay. Anybody else want to say something whether I can hear you? Ashley, can you speak? Peter, I can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just want to assure you I didn't touch anything on my side, so it's somewhere in the system.
Can you hear me?
Peter, you're muted now. Benison, you're muted.
Gustav, can you hear me?
Prof, regarding our new assignment,
can you speak up? Now your voice is also gone.
Okay, I'm asking about the new assignment. I'm actually worried about it in terms of marketing or market research. Is the idea just to rock up to this person's business and ask them their business secrets and hope for the best? It kind of feels to me that way.
Okay, I can vaguely make out what you're saying. You're concerned about the marketing research. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the engineer in me worried about what to do. Like, do we just walk up to someone's business and say, give me your business secrets?
Look, what I'm asking you to do is really very qualitative research. That's just going to talk to people. And I don't expect you to quantify anything. Just get a little bit of information by talking to a couple of people and see what you get from it. I think I mentioned the last time too, if I didn't, we do research every day. We have certain assumptions. I think I mentioned the case of your car that doesn't want to start. And now you think about a couple of causes, and then obviously you've got to go and look at those causes one by one and find out which is the one. So it's this kind of almost exploratory research is just to get you to a point where you, by virtue of a system of logical elimination, you get to some truth about it. It's just to get a bit of revelation about how people in the business see the business. And you can ask your questions almost as representations of the business model. Even the questions that you identified in your first assignment, maybe just ask those questions and see what they come up with. So I'm really not expecting you to do a rigorous piece of quantitative research with all kinds of tests for significance, all that kind of stuff. It's really to get some insight. Now, just semantically speaking, there's sight and there's insight. That's just going beyond what seems to be there on face value. So by asking questions, you can get to that kind of insight. And surely you will probably find that all of you, there may be some convergence in what you find out, but there will be some things that you find out that would be probably unique to your own discussions that you've had. And so don't stress too much about the research.
Is the assignment going to take the same format as the first assignment?
I still can't hear you, Peter. Okay, let me just add something. On Saturday morning, this coming Saturday morning, as I said, there will be somebody who will speak because the chapters that you're now studying are focused on the customer behavior and so on. And I promised that there would be a speaker to talk to us about the postmodern customer, which is quite important. Some of you alluded to this point. For instance, there were some who made remarks that particularly the younger people nowadays don't have time and don't have the inclination to do their own washing and so on, and because urbanization and young people congregating to smaller dwelling units and so on. So you referred in passing almost to some of the attributes of the modern consumer, which will have an impact on this business and this industry. And so she's going to talk about the postmodern consumer. I'm not going to introduce her now. I'll do it. I'll do it on Saturday. But I'm also going to spend a little time, particularly on the research, giving you some guidelines on converting research data into insight. And I'll give you some examples now. It was done in specific contexts. And yes, I know it's a bit it's a bit late in the process because you've got to complete the assignment by the end of the weekend, but I think it'll still add a bit of value so that you can maybe convert what you found and took notes on as you talk to these people into something that will provide you with some insight. you're still very quiet because I can't hear you.
Gustav, from my side, I just want to ask, do we write the assignment in like a case study format, similar to the case study that we have currently? Or is this specific format, do we need to do something more than that?
Right. I can hear you vaguely. Yes, and I could also see a chat remark here. Yes, when I talk about having a proper format for your assignments, you know, I'm not necessarily going to expect you because to be all, you know, do it all the same way. But you know, it's just a little unacceptable for me to get an assignment and there's not even a name on it. I don't know whose it is unless I go back and click back and see whose it is. So I just expect a proper title, your name, student number, and so on, and then, you know, go to a new page. So I really need a title page, and it's not only for me just to know who it is. I mean, that's just that's a proper way of writing. This is, after all, an academic course, and you need to do something a little more properly than some of you have done it. But I'll give you some guidelines when we meet on Saturday.
Gustav,
McGee, I can't hear you chewing.
Gustav?
I still can't hear you guys.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's not on my side, it's on the system. Here and there, I hear one word coming out clearly, and then it's very faint again.
Could I just
I see there's a remark that you may be able to type questions if you want to. Yes.
Gustav, can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Oh no.
It's not the closeness to the microphone that's the problem. It's something else. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, we can hear you, Mahed, but I think just type the question.
Okay, let me comment on the referencing. Somebody asked me now to comment on the referencing. Once again, I'll just give you a couple of guidelines. I must say that I made some implicit assumptions that there is a specific way of referencing that you are supposed to be using in all of the subjects, and apparently that's not the case. So I'll just give you some examples on Saturday morning of referencing in text, because there's a difference between referencing in text and reference and putting your references at the end. And some of you got it absolutely right, but others really is very sloppy.
Hi, Prof.
And once again, you know, it's not that I'm nitpicking here. It's just because as you study at an academic institution, there should be certain things that are not negotiable. But I'll give you some examples on Saturday. Okay, do you see what Shingi is saying there? There's a section on the Moodle that has referencing. So, yeah, EndNote is just a tool that will convert numbers in the text to actual EndNotes, but you still need to do referencing. EndNote in itself is not sufficient. You must use a particular referencing mode. And I'll just find out before Saturday where it is in Moodle.
Hi, Prof. Can I share it? Can I share the section right away?
Okay, folks, I know that it's extremely frustrating now. I see that I've got 14 chats here. Okay, Peter, can we research only one business that provides service to another business for assignment 2, or are we supposed to research more? No, what I want you to do is research this particular industry, the dry cleaning industry. So you've got to go to dry cleaners and talk to them. Okay, Shingi, there is a section on Moodle that has referencing, so we'll just check that out on Saturday. I already answered I answered your question on the use of EndNote. Russell, before it is too late. You know, when I talk about the referencing, it's not a big deal. It's, you know, it's going to take you a couple of minutes to whatever you've got at the stage to just put it in the right template. Russell, you say, can you send us a sample of the synopsis? What do you mean by that?
Shingi, can I ask you, is it possible to maybe log in at Gustav's PC and see if he can get the sound going? I think this is pretty getting frustrated at this stage.
Yeah, I think there's no way I can get onto his computer right away. So
Johan, I'm afraid I can't hear you.
I'll have to get onto his computer. So I think what I suggest you do is, if there are any really urgent questions, you post them on Moodle. And I'm sure it's
Shingi, do you have any suggestion how you can fix the sound?
I'm really unsure. What I can ask you to do is to check on the volume and see if it's maxed out on the complete right next to your time.
And this is where I think if we are looking for something sustainable, it goes way beyond the short-term success of your immediate energy situation. So we've got to look at some kind of moral code when it comes to our ethical bets in business and in society.
Sorry, what's happening?
No, I think it's just trying to sort out the volume.
Okay, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you again.
Ah,
all right.
Yeah, hallelujah.
Yep.
All right,
okay, Russell, you don't have to type so slow. You can ask your question now. Unmute.
Yeah. I was saying, Prof, that you obviously have a set synopsis in mind or a synopsis in mind, and I'd just like to get an example of synopsis, a good synopsis from you, if possible. You know, I'd like to meet your expectations. I'd hate to write in a certain style that you don't enjoy or you don't want. So if you perhaps can give an example of a good synopsis, not necessarily from this exercise, but from a past exercise, we at least know how to write in the style that you prefer.
Okay, you say you want it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm busy writing my synopsis now, but I'd hate to end up submitting it and you're unhappy with the way I've submitted my synopsis.
All right. I'll just ask how to post it on the system. As you know, I'm learning the system now. I'll try to set it to tomorrow in the course of the morning to send you I'll just talk to Shingi and Corne and ask how it can be done.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is anybody else speaking in the background?
Hi, Gustav. I wanted to ask a question.
Yes, Maya.
On neuromarketing.
On what?
Neuromarketing. That was the video that you had put onto Moodle for us.
Neuromarketing.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what's your question?
My question was, I saw the video and I went and read a little bit more about it, and I'm not sure how I can balance that against ethical conduct, because it's almost tricking a person into buying what they didn't really think they needed, but you put the idea in their head. How does this feature? I mean, how do you keep it ethical when using such practices?
Okay, this debate has been in circulation for a long time, and many years ago it was referred to as subliminal marketing or advertising, where people are prompted on levels that speaks to the subconscious. But there are many others too. You know, for instance, marketing or directing marketing to children in order to persuade them to ask their parents to buy something. So there are many different ethical questions that need to be asked. And last time we also spoke about the whole question of comparative advertising, where you play down a known other brand in your commercial that is not allowed here. So there are many different ethical questions, and the whole question of neuromarketing is, I think, just a progression from what started out as subliminal marketing. It is a very subjective view of when you spill over into the unacceptable. You know, when I started in advertising, I'm not sure whether I referred to it in class, but at that time, for instance, when I did the advertising for perfume body sprays, and we were not allowed on television to show a bare armpit. So, you know, we were not, when I advertised, this was advertised household cleaners, we were not allowed to show the inside view of a toilet bowl. So this is a moving target, so to speak. You know, things that are acceptable these days didn't used to be acceptable some years ago. So as we go on almost on the journey of asking ourselves what is ethical and what not, the latest for instance, in the United Kingdom, there's now a code's been published where advertisers are prohibited from showing anybody in what they refer to as stereotyped roles. For instance, you know, why is it in things like, for instance, washing powders that are used by supposedly women? Why are the smart guys that know which washing powders should be used men in laboratory coats? And so those are the kinds of things that we need to ask when we talk about the ethics of marketing and advertising. But there is a loose code, and you would find probably that in most instances, when action is taken against an advertiser or a marketer, it is largely based on the number of complaints received on a particular endeavor. And so there's no set standard rules. There are some guidelines, obviously, that will differ from country to country. Anybody else? Laverne, you are muted. Just unmute yourself.
I'm living in the 50s. My husband's muting me.
Nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I was just saying, I think society also plays quite a large role.
You know, I just think that I can't hear you again. I think this has something to do with the muting system.
Okay.
Well, so the 50s is still relevant.
No, I can't hear you.
Damn it. Go put on a skirt.
I'm not too sure whether if everybody else mutes, whether probably you will come through. I'm not too sure. You see, Maya says that she can hear you, Laverne, but I can't. And your image is frozen.
What a glitch.
All right, guys. I think we might have to. We'll just keep going and going. I think we might have to then work on, if there are any questions, emailing them to Prof. And then once I'll look at his computer when he comes in on Saturday, just to make sure that everything is okay, and probably advise that he gets headphones as well and a microphone. And it also makes it easier for you guys to get the same. If you notice, I'm actually using a proper headset, just to allow me to communicate better with you guys.
But Shingy, I mean,
I can't hear you.
Hear each other. Gustav can't hear us, but we can all hear each other perfectly. Am I right, guys?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, my plan is I'm just going to look at the computer just to see why he can't hear, because we can see him, we can hear him. So it's not a connectivity issue. If it was, they would advise me.
I think it's on his side.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will look at it. In the meantime, can I just show you where you can go for support? Remember, you're talking about writing skills and stuff on Moodle. So if you give me a couple of minutes, I'll just show you where you can go for referencing, so you don't have the same problems again. Is that okay?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let me just get into it.
I don't know what you're agreeing to, because I can't hear.
It's okay, Prof. I'm just showing them where they
just here and there a squawk and a squeak here, but nothing else.
Well, then maybe we should talk about the Prof now.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Shingy, what did you say about Gustav? Geez, Shingy, I wouldn't have said that.
Okay, so if there is one particular outcome of tonight's session, I just realized I'm very bad at lip reading.
Yeah. All right, guys, let me just try and log on to, just try and screen share you so I can just show you.
Shingy, can you type a message to tell me what you're saying?
All right.
Just very briefly.
Shingy, you can focus on Moodle. I'll inform the Prof.
All right. Drawing the guys. All right, so that's okay. Right. So guys, can you see my Zoom?
Yep.
You can see that, right? Right. So if I scroll down, if you go into the unit, so let me just show you. There is orientation resources. If you scroll right down, you'll find administration and support. Can you see that? And then if you scroll down, there's learning skills support. So this guy here, John Small, is actually, his job is to make sure that if you can't reference, if you can't work on academic writing and Turnitin, Turnitin is actually your referencing and your to make sure that you can paraphrase and things like that. So you will have to email John Small. I don't know if you met him during orientation, but try and email him. That's your first point of call. So he will then suggest how best you can. He's got ways of coaching you on how to do that. So that's number one. And then number two, if you go into the particular week, you'll find there's APA referencing. You saw that link? That's a link right at the bottom, APA referencing. And then it will tell you, it takes you into our citing and referencing style. So you can actually then go into the website and start understanding the tools. Yeah, so there are two places. There are actually quite places where you can go in and you can talk about writing integrity. Can you see it? Citing and referencing, academic integrity. There are actually tutorials that are there. Some of them are very short. So if you actually take some time out, you will be able to acquaint yourself on the required material for this one. So there are two things. There's John Small, and then there's the site that's available too. Is that okay?
Thank you for that, Shinyi.
All right, cool, guys.
Ashley, I'm going to add you to the group now. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Prof, can you hear us?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Gary Hamill leading the
These there are a couple of other things. I just want to who are the people in business who are often for trouble? Sometimes the person is being fired, sometimes you may be punishing them or criticize them, maybe have potential and or again they will manage. When you're in charge, you're on the board, you need to have to look at the people. Sometimes people are in the situation to connect the problem. Their own approach, or their target their high profitability expectations, bonuses from achieving the specified targets is a problem as well. Very often, people have personal problems like gambling problems, substance abuse, and in the desperate situation, running their own life to sustain their bad habits.
All right. I hope your network has come back, Prof. Any luck?
There's also a need to support the so there's a couple of big warning signs of and there's warning signs that as look for somebody who's possibly not doing things the most technical. And this comes down to the ethical base and the morality, which is part and parcel of the foundation also. And this is just indicative of leading out the organization. If you see somebody who's lying out and you set up on the internet, you know that they get it, that could be a red flag. The person refusing.
All right, guys, have a nice evening. I'm going to leave you. Thanks, eh?
Good. All right, so guys, we're ending the session now. Thank you very much. My apologies again. We'll look at the computer issue, and I hope everyone was answered. Does anyone have anything urgent not answered? Please type it now. If not, then bye-bye. All right, cool, guys. Later.